guys, my name is Ramota and welcome back to my channel. If you don't follow me already, be sure to follow me on Instagram and on Twitter to stay up to date with all things master, student life, blog updates and just general know-hows about all things global health. So today's video is going to be the last video in my series on neglected tropical diseases, NTDs. The next couple of videos I'll be making will be following the Sustainable Development Goals developed by the UN and kind of how they're applicable to you, what they mean, the research that's going into it, just general knowledge into global health, global well-being that's being pushed forward. The disease we're going to be looking at today is trypanosomiasis, with a particular focus on African trypanosomiasis. It is one of the neglected tropical diseases. It's quite severe and it's extremely interesting. I'm going to insert some images here that kind of show what the disease looks like, what trypanosomes look like in the blood, and so on and so forth. So, what is trypanosomiasis? Trypanosomiasis can also be referred to as African sleeping sickness, and that's mostly due to the disruption it causes in the sleeping cycle. It affects people in over about 36 countries in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. Transmission occurs via being bitten by a tsetse fly, and it's most common in areas where there's a large amount of agriculture, farming, and so on and so forth. Tsetse flies are easily able to breed in these locations. African trypanosomiasis can take two forms. So Trypanosoma brucei rhodiense and Trypanosoma brucei gambiense. Wow, that's a mouthful. Gambiense refers to diseases that are a bit more gradual. You can have the infection for weeks, for months, for years, and it doesn't really show any symptoms. However, rhodiense refers to a more rapid infection. You usually tend to show symptoms quite quickly, usually within a few weeks or a few months, and it's more likely to result in death. A large number, about 97-98% of cases of African trypanosomiasis refers to about 97 or 98% of cases of trypanosomiasis refers to brucei gambiense versus only 2% referring to brucei rhodiense. As of 2015, there was an estimated 2,804 cases. However, it is important to note that trypanosomiasis is also extremely prevalent in animals and can cause wasting, death, which also leads to a decrease in cattle production, money, especially in areas where farming is quite prominent. So, what are the difference between the two forms of trypanosomiasis? Trypanosomiasis brucei gambiense refers to a more gradual infection. It refers to infections that can take place over weeks, months, or years. It occurs in about 24 of the 36 countries where trypanosomiasis is present. Due to the gradual nature of the disease, a lot of the time people don't come in until they're quite severe because they do not realize that they're being infected by the disease. This versus brucei rhodiense, this is quite rapid. Like I said, this occurs within the first couple of weeks, the first couple of months. The symptoms are quite rapid, and the disease is more likely to cross the blood-brain barrier, more likely to infect the brain, and more likely to cause severe death. Countries tend to have one disease or the other. However, Uganda is one of the few countries where it's been recorded that they have both diseases. It's also important to note that while this video will not be focusing on it, there is also American trypanosomiasis, which results in Chagas disease. I'll pop a link down below if you want to go into more reading about that. Trypanosomiasis occurs when you get bitten by a tsetse fly. They inject trip into your bloodstream. Here they're able to rapidly multiply and invade your blood, your tissues, and so on and so forth. In the first stage of infection, it does cause factors such as fever and itching, whilst when it happens in the second stage of infection, this is when it damages the central nervous system and is more likely to cause disorders in sleeping, hence the name of African sleeping sickness. A large proportion of the infections, like I said, take place in 36 countries. However, 70% of the cases have been reported to be from areas such as the DRC. It's important to note that a lot of these infections are quite clustered due to the habitats that tsetse flies need in order to survive. They need particular conditions in order to transmit the disease. Not all of them can be carriers for the disease, and so on. And they also need conditions such as agriculture and rural areas. So how can we control it? The main method for control for trypanosomiasis is exhaustive screening. Because brucei gambiense can occur for so long without any symptoms being present, it's very important for people to go to these regions to do blood smears, to do rapid diagnostic tests, to do really quick microscopy to see the impact to see whether or not people have these diseases. This then leads to further testing, which can result in treatment. There are different treatments available for different stages of the disease. Some of them can be quite extreme. A lot of them require a lot of the time in the hospital and can be quite invasive, which is a large part of the reason why diagnosis and treatment of this disease is so difficult. Another means of control method is tsetse fly control. A lot of this involves out in the wilderness, color traps to attract tsetse flies, so blue nets, particular shapes that tsetse flies are attracted to, that are sprayed with insecticide in order to prevent further production and further spreading of the disease. So this was just a brief introduction into trypanosomiasis, kind of how it works, what it is, the different forms, some of the symptoms, and kind of how it's briefly being controlled. If you're interested in finding out more, be sure to click the link that I'm going to put down below. Do your research. You might find something that you're really interested in. You might fall in love with it. You might find yourself a new passion. So thank you guys very much for following me through like a very long couple of months, just producing these videos. It's my first time doing YouTube, getting into this, and I've really enjoyed it. So the next couple of videos are going to look at SDGs, so the Sustainable Development Goals. Wow, words. Kind of how they affect you. What are they? What is the purpose behind the UN? Who is funding it? Who's interested in it? What companies are out there putting money into this research? Why are they putting money into this research? What makes it so relevant?